Hey, what's up guys? T-Dawg here. Lately, Monster Hunter Wilds has been pretty boring to me and going through some growing pains. Ouch.
The biggest problem, hands down, for me, and for many more, as a PC player, is the performance. I can run Warzone at 100 frames, Minecraft with shaders and mods at 120 plus, Cyberpunk 2077 in the same boat. Why can I only get 35 to 55 frames on this game with medium settings?
So, I've been revisiting the older games, primarily 3U on 3DS, since Legiacris is arriving at the end of the month.
He's back, boys!
No, I was casually playing, staying up way too reasonably late. When I finally had my neurons fire for the first time in a while, I kept noticing patterns in a certain line of weapons. First, it started with the hammer, then the dual blades, and it kept building from there. Feeling adventurous and inspired, I decided to put all the parts together, and that's when it finally clicked. Dude and dudettes, after days of being locked inside the lab, I'm happy to report I officially have an investigation on my hands. Let's get started. First things first, let's head over there. Here we are, the deserted island, right off of Moga. Personally, it's my favorite map. Now, I do want to clarify before we start, I know some of the bones here look similar to others, and some of them don't, and so it's possible that not every single part is related to the same creature. It could be multiple, for all we know, but for this purpose, I'm going to have them all be one monster, or as close as I can to one monster. With that in mind, I decided to start from there. Just to make sure I got my homework done, I quickly flicked through every known monster in the series, just to not see anything. Sure, there were some similarities with creatures like a Zorathalos, but there was nothing concrete. Then and there, when I should have been manning the register, I decided to brush off the old archaeology diploma I bought online. What I eventually discovered and came up with is pretty cool. Check it out. Like I said, I started off by gathering all the weapons. From there, I rearranged them in accordance with common monster skeletons, primarily flying wyverns and brute wyverns. And I based that off of this one bone looking a lot like a wing to me, and so I felt like it was an appropriate place to start off of. Then, I proceeded to remove the metal, like handles and bolts, etc. After some time, here's what I came up with. Are you starting to see it? I know I am. Alright, so I have a skeleton. Now what, right? Looking at the weapon descriptions, I took what I could with a grain of salt. In the Monster Hunter games, it's always a good thing to take any piece of information given with some doubt. Sometimes it's just flavor text, and other times you get hints about lore. It's clear in this instance that there is a story being told here. Just in case you're finding any of this unbelievable, let me quickly go over how fossils are formed. If you don't really care about that, skip to here. Here is something I pulled off of Google.
Fossils are formed when plants or animals die and are buried quickly by sediment like sand, mud, or volcanic ash. Over time, these sediments harden into rock, and the organism's remains can be preserved, often through a process called mineralization,
Yeah,
where minerals replace the original organic material.
so as you can see, it's equally likely that there's a fair amount of remaining tissue and or mineral from this original monster. That information is what dictates my actions afterwards. Having my skeleton finished and using context clues, I decided to partake in recreating this lost monster. I quickly got to tracing over details, which resulted in something passable. I still was underneath the impression of this being a flying wyvern and sent this to a homie of mine, Nate. And that's when this absolute legend said the obvious thing that I didn't even consider. These might not be wings. These could potentially be fins. And that's when everything changed for my design. Of course, this is the first game this weapon tree appears from what I understand, so it would make perfect sense for this monster to have been aquatic. Then and there, I decided this thing has to be a Piscine wyvern, similar to Plesioth, Cephodrome, and Gyarados. From then, I'm not really sure what exactly happened, but eventually, I came up with the final. It was almost like divine intervention, the lines and art flowing out of my pen at lightning speed. With enough teasing, let me introduce you to the Boladroth. The Boladroth is a Piscine wyvern standing at 1,500 to 2,500 centimeters tall. Not huge, but not small either. Before we get to the obvious part, please let me kinda explain who Boladroth is, or what Boladroth is. Laying in the shallow waters of the deserted island, Boladroth camouflages with the sun rays reflecting on the ocean floor. When prey, primarily Epiop, swims nearby, that's when this beast launches. As you can see, Boladroth is designed to be some kind of ambush predator. It's not very big, it's fast, nimble, but it's not exactly sturdy enough to clash with monsters one-on-one. But this doesn't apply to only defenseless animals either. If, let's say, another monster enters its territory, like Boladroth would say, Boladroth will then attack using a series of pressure attacks, the spines on its back and legs, rolls, hip checks, standard Piscean stuff, and also a secret weapon. You see, Boladroth, they, like many animals, are born with a tail. Except their tail is something bizarre. You see, the Boladroth is born with a blade-like tail, similar to something like Galapagos. They use it as a tool and tend to scrape and sharpen its edges along the rocky surfaces of the deserted island's cliffs and underwater ruins. Throughout the years, every individual Boladroth's tail is different, being used and scraped for their own unique uses. Due to the constant damage, the tail is covered in healed wounds, which open up when the monster aggros. When a foe is paralyzed or slowed with the toxin, that's when the tail is unleashed, hacking and slashing into the opponent. As you can see, Boladroth is an apex predator of the deserted island, a dedicated ambush predator. And after all that monologuing and yapping, that leads to the elephant in the room. What exactly happened to this guy if it's so damn tough? Well, let's go back for a moment. With Boladroth being a water monster, most likely, that means it's more than likely to have a massive disadvantage to lightning typically. Well, it's a good thing that there's no lightning water monsters in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, right? Right? Let's say hypothetically there was a family of huge leviathans that could produce electricity, massive amounts of it, and could swim very fast and are massive. You could easily see how Boladroth might not be able to, let's say, compete, right? The Lord of the Seas is called the Lord of the Seas for a reason. Water plus lightning equals bad time for everybody, literally except Lagiacrus. No wonder he's the GOAT. So, unfortunately for our friend, their line just couldn't compete with this new, overpowering foe, eventually dying out. This is kind of how I would imagine an encounter to go. Hey, sorry to stop the video. If you enjoy this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, because I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of 2025. I know we can do it. Continuing on, or whatever. And that, everyone, is it. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your day. This took way too long, I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of stuff going on in my life, and it's been kind of changing things around. So I appreciate you being patient with me. I've kind of given up on being like a big Monster Hunter YouTuber, well, at least when it comes to like generic topics. And so I'm spending all my time now making videos that are kind of outside the norm of what you'd typically expect. And so if that interests you, stay in tune, maybe subscribe. And this is the beginning of summer, so enjoy your summer. And a perfect way to start off with it is by listening to Lil Tecca's new album, Dopamine. Not sponsored or anything, I just think it's dope, so I'm going to use that to close it out. Starting now. Let me introduce you to Narkbot. Good morning, Narkbot.
Good morning, T-Dawg.
Ooh, yeah, I hate that.
No, my bitch so bad. You spend your cash on a bitch you never had, yeah. I'ma tell me, boy, don't last, so I ain't gon' slide if that shit ain't by the bag, yeah. My life changed so fast that I don't even recognize myself from last year. Said she never needed no man, but when she with you, said she needs somebody else.
Yo! Is no one really in there? Shit!
Baby, I be messed up for ya. Said she wanted me to explore her now. Baby, let me get a little toy, and she got dark thoughts, let me hear some now. Baby, I be messed up for ya. I get dark thoughts too.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the fight you've all been waiting for.
That's right, Brad.
If you've been paying attention to Monster Hunter content for the last 12 years, you would know there's been a fight brewing behind the scenes. That's right, Michael. The energy in the air is ecstatic. This rivalry has been going on since Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. T-Dawg versus Legiacris. They've had their fights, they've had their rematches in Generation and Generations Ultimate, and it was a tie. This fight is the fight to end it all. Next time on T-Dawg. The question we've all been waiting for. Who comes out on top? The little gas station guy or the giant electric crocodile? Personally, my money's on the crocodile. And my money is on T-Dawg.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event you've all been waiting for. Gas station worker T-Dawgy Dog. In this corner, weighing in at a monstrous 19 tons and a staggering 24 meters in length, the Lord of the Seas himself, Are you ready?